Have you ever wondered how to use beneficial insects on your flower farm? So basically using good bugs to eat and control the bad bugs. If you've ever wondered that, today we're going to be talking things like green lacewings, parasitic wasps, praying mantises, nematodes, and a few other things like that. So if you are at all interested in using beneficials to control pests on your farm, then stick around for this video. Hi, I'm Ruth Ann from Abundant Blooms Flower Farm in Dorr, Michigan, Zone 6A with growing dates from mid-May until mid-October, frost-free days. And I farm here with my husband and our 5 children, and I farm on about an acre and sell almost exclusively to florists. And I also have educational content for flower farmers through my course and through my new membership, the Abundant Blooms Collective. I just want to jump in here. I had the membership open for founding members launch last week and I changed the price, and then I got so many emails from people that missed it and that still really wanted to be a part of it. So I changed it back. So it's $20 a month. You can cancel anytime, or $200 a year. We're having our founding members week this week inside the membership. So I'm going live on Zoom on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday this week. If you're interested in still joining that, it is still $20 a month. I'm so excited. Welcome if you're one of the members in there. I've got a guest expert lined up. Once a month, I'll be live in there on Zoom doing a Q&A. It's going to be weekly private podcasts. It's the place to take your farm into implementation, get accountability, have a community of other people in there. I've got flower farmers in there that are still in the dreaming phase, brand new flower farmers in their first or second year, and flower farmers like 5 to 7 years. People in there selling at roadside stands, they're doing CSAs, they're selling at farmers markets, and they're selling to florists. Like everything in between. 28 states I counted, maybe more now, and 5 different countries. It's just exciting, and I would love to have you in there. Today we're going to be talking about beneficial insects. I just want you to know I am not a beneficial insect expert at all. I have had multiple people ask me for this video for over a year, and I haven't done it because I'm not an expert, but I am going to be sharing with you what I know and what I've had in my experience, and specifically with growing and using beneficial insects to control pests in your tunnel, which I think is almost essential, or an essential part of your management plan at least. So what are beneficial insects? So basically they're good bugs that eat bad bugs. So they're good bugs like green lacewings or ladybugs or praying mantises that eat things like aphids and thrips and other soft-bodied insects like that. Or potentially they're nematodes that go into the ground and kill grubs before they even come to the surface and grow into things like Japanese beetles. So that is kind of the point. The point is that you're using good bugs to control the bad bugs before they get out of control. When I was researching how to grow in a tunnel, basically everybody that talks about anything with growing in tunnels says you have to have a pest management plan. So everything grows better in a tunnel. Your flowers will grow taller in the tunnel, hence the campanula behind me. Weeds will grow really great in a tunnel, and insects will love your lovely, protected environment to also multiply. Everything grows better in the tunnel. So I think that's why it was so important for me to get beneficials. So the first year that I had the tunnel was last spring, and I bought beneficial insects. I bought green lacewings in egg form, and then I put them in my tunnel. I could tell that they really helped. So I had some thrips last spring, and I released a bunch of beneficial insects, and I must say I really felt like it definitely brought it under control and kind of saved my ranunculus crop. I do talk about that in a video that I did last spring, but basically that was kind of, I lost some crops, specifically white ranunculus, because all bugs are attracted to white flowers more particularly than dark flowers, but I was able to definitely get them under control, and I didn't lose my whole crop. So I definitely became a believer last spring in like, wow, I really see how this works. I also have tons of praying mantises on my farm now after growing woodies. I didn't start out that way, but this is my 7th year, and I've grown a lot of woodies and perennials and have good habitat. I don't spray harsh chemicals on things to kill everything. And I think I've just created an environment that is very inviting for things like praying mantises. And now I couldn't tell you how many I have, like hundreds and hundreds. And I collected a lot of their eggs that I found when we were pruning our woodies, and I brought a bunch of them in here and put them in other places in the farm and stuff like that. So that's really, really cool to see. And I did that last spring as well, and we watched the praying mantises hatch and start eating the bad bugs in the tunnel. So there's definitely other things you need to do beside using beneficial insects to help control pests. You need to weed and not have a lot of weeds because the pests like to go in the weeds as well, and it will just attract them. Clearing out the debris from your tunnel, like you don't strip in the tunnel, stuff like that. That's also good for pest management. Having really good airflow is good for disease prevention and pest prevention and just being sanitary. And then one of the most important things is scouting early to find your signs of aphids or thrips early, because if you can find them early before there's an infestation, you can probably do stuff to help prevent that. If your whole tunnel is infested with aphids, it might be too late. So you have to catch it early. It doesn't matter if your whole tunnel's full of aphids and you bring in all kinds of green lacewings, it probably is not going to stop the major problem. You might have to cut your crops and put them in the trash, or do something else. Thankfully, I've never had that big of a problem. And beneficial insects are not an overnight fix either. You're not going to release your green lacewings and 24 hours later be like, oh, there's no aphids. They take a little while. Just know it's not like a spray where you're going to spray and kill them all and then not have a problem. So they definitely take time. So the best way to release beneficial insects is if you release them actually before you see the problem. So it's pretty important and helpful if you track when you first saw your aphid, like what date did you first see an aphid, and then you can record that for next year so you can try and release your first round of beneficials before that. Now there's a little bit of caveat because they can't survive in super cold temperatures. So sometimes people release them realizing that they might die because of the cold, but it's worth it just to try to get a jump on the bad bugs and get the beneficials in here, even if they're just laying eggs or something like that. So this spring I released beneficials and I was like, yes, I haven't even seen an aphid. And literally the next morning I was like, there's aphids. So, and I had released eggs, so I really should have released them a week before because eggs have to hatch. Obviously, they're not just, going to go crawling around eating things. What I ended up doing this spring was I had some aphids on my ranunculus. I didn't have very many ranunculus. It was Mother's Day week, and I literally brought my ranunculus in the house and washed them. You can actually wash aphids off, and they didn't look bad. And ranunculus are pretty tough. You can literally dunk them in water and not damage them. I mean, gently, obviously. I broke a couple heads, but so I literally washed off the aphids. And it was actually fascinating because then I really studied the water where the aphids were, and I could see aphids in different ages of development. And I also could see the larvae from my green lacewings, which is a little bit sad because I drowned some of them. It was worth it to be able to sell them, and obviously I could tell that I had gotten rid of a lot of aphids, so that was good and very, very interesting. So sometimes if you even just for observational purposes, you could do that, like wash and dunk your ranunculus and see what's in them. And I actually could tell there were thrips too, and I hadn't even seen the thrips, and as I was studying I was like, oh, I also have thrips, not very many, but a few. A lot of people ask, where do you buy beneficial insects from? I have always bought them from a place called Arbico. It's in Arizona, and they have a lab. And I actually spoke on the phone with one of their representatives, and that was really, really helpful. So they're very knowledgeable. And if you have questions, I would highly recommend that you contact them. There are other companies too. I'm honestly not very familiar with them. I don't have an affiliate with Arbico. So I would just try and find something that's close to you. They were tremendously helpful in explaining, what to buy and how to release them. And I was like, well, what if I buy too many? And he's like, well, if you do that, if you get too many green lacewings, then they just start eating each other. So it's not like you're going to harm your plants by having, too many. If you're concerned, you might want to just get an extra vial of them. So I'm just going to kind of go through a couple of the specific insects. So one of the most helpful for me has been the green lacewings, and they are generalists, so they will eat thrips and aphids and other soft-bodied insects. So they're going to go and give you, more coverage. Nematodes go into the soil and eat things like grubs and prevent them from turning into beetles. And actually, the gentleman I spoke to said, actually, one of the best times to spray these, you spray into the soil. One of the best times to spray the nematodes into the soil is in the fall, because they'll catch the grubs at that earlier growing stage and be able to take them out. And then other things you can do are parasitic wasps. Those only go after aphids. So I did release some of them because I started to see more aphids and started to get a little concerned. And so I ordered some parasitic adult wasps that I could release, and they were already ready to start chomping away. Then there's some other questions like, how many should you release? How often should you release them? And I would just really recommend that you check out their website. They're going to have the most information. Also, it's really self-explanatory when you get the vial in the mail. You'll be like, what do I do with this? It literally says it on the bottle. If you get it during the day, you don't want to release them during the day. So they'll either tell you, put it in the fridge, leave it on your counter, release it within 24 hours of arrival. It tells you exactly how to release it. It tells you, should you spray with water beforehand or afterhand, or do it dry, or do it in the cool. I think all of them you want to release in the cool. You want to release them either in the morning or the evening. I haven't heard any that say release them in the heat of the day, but I probably could be wrong. But they'll all tell you exactly what to do and how to do it. And if you don't know how to spray it, then you can look it up. They have YouTube videos or video tutorials on their website. So I was very intimidated to buy beneficial insects because I just didn't know what to do or how to do it, how to release them. And now I'm just like, oh, if it's a new thing, like I got parasitic wasps this year, I've never gotten those before. Yeah, you just do what the vial says. That's how you release them. So I have mostly gotten green lacewings, and the most cost-effective way to do this is to get eggs. So obviously you're going to want to try and do that before you see a bunch of bad bugs, because if you're already seeing the aphids and then you order the eggs, they only ship on certain days because they're shipped overnight on ice and different things. So they only ship them on certain days of the week, and then they have to get shipped, and then you have to release them, and then they have to hatch, right? So if you see a problem, go online, order eggs. It could be 10 to 14 days before they even hatch and will start doing anything. But the best thing to do if you see that is to get adults. Again, they only ship on certain days, so you're going to want to go immediately and try and order adult green lacewings. You can get them in adult form too, or larva form. I think it's larva form. You can get them in a form that's not eggs, that will be much quicker to start eating your aphids. Or you can get parasitic wasps, or whatever you're trying to target. If it's thrips, don't get parasitic wasps because they don't eat thrips. So you got to just read through the website. If you have questions, call them. You can just see that that's why prevention is key, and having them beforehand is better. Now, getting eggs is cheaper because they ship them quickly, but not as quickly as the adult ones. And so just realize, if you're going to pay $40 or $50 for the vial of parasitic wasps, I have paid like basically just as much in shipping. So they're not cheap. And, so it's just much more cost effective if you just keep getting the eggs. So what I like is that you can get them on a subscription, and then I don't have to think about it. And my green lacewings are just arriving. I get them every other week along with nematodes, and then I can just release them on my farm. And I do that into, I don't even know, July, I think. I was talking to the guy, like, when do I stop, getting them? And so they're very helpful. So just if you release the eggs, they're not that expensive, the green lacewing eggs. And I saw green lacewings all over my farm last summer. So hopefully they also laid eggs for me. Yes, they actually work. And I kind of did talk about that. Last year I saw them, and then they started helping you. So there are other ways also to attract beneficial insects. You can do things like planting alyssum, apparently, create pollinator habitats, reduce spraying when possible, and just adding diversity to your farm. And like I said, I've definitely seen that diversity being added to my farm with perennial and woody plantings. I think that's made a big difference. And again, just something important to remember, sprays kill both the good bugs and the bad bugs. So if you're spraying your bad bugs, you're also spraying your good bugs and killing them. And then if you spray right after you release beneficial insects, you're going to be killing the stuff that you just paid for. So don't do that. Again, it's helpful to know exactly what you're fighting. Like I said, certain things are not going to kill certain other, certain beneficial insects will only go after certain bad bugs. So if you're getting the wrong thing for the wrong bug, you're not going to be helping yourself. So knowing what bugs you have is important. You can do that by just monitoring, looking really closely at your crops, which you should have a scouting method. Like every Monday, you scout the tunnel. That's really, really very important. A few years ago, before I had beneficial insects, I had a bunch of snapdragons out in the field that overwintered, and they were gorgeous and beautiful and about to bloom, and then they were positively totally covered in thrips. And my solution to that was I cut them all down and I threw them in the trash because I just wanted to get rid of the thrips. So that's what I had to do. So that was a bummer. So hopefully, you won't have to do such drastic measures. Just to recap, beneficial insects are absolutely helpful, and they can control pests if you scout and find them early. So prevention is key, or catching them early is really key to preventing infestations. In your tunnel especially, I think they're a really helpful way to be a part of your management plan. Scouting is critical. Attracting beneficial insects can be helpful. Creating diversity on your farm. And if you don't have to know everything to start, right? So if you really don't know what to do, just call the company, call Arbico, call someone, call one of the companies. Like, they're there to help you. And like I said, the person that I spoke with at Arbico was very helpful. You're going to want to identify what bug you have and choose what beneficial insects to start with. And then just learning as you go, like, okay, what didn't work, and next year learning better. And like I said, documenting when you first see them so you know to get your lacewing eggs or whatever eggs, a week prior to that, if possible, in the future. I hope that you found this video helpful, even though I'm not an expert on beneficial insects. I hope this just gave you like a little taste in how I use them on my farm and how I found them helpful, particularly in my high tunnel. If you enjoyed this video, if you would subscribe to my channel, we're getting some new people around here, and I don't usually ask you to subscribe, but if you find this valuable and you haven't subscribed yet, I'd really appreciate that. And then if you enjoyed this video, you can check out this video, and I hope that you find that helpful as well. All right, so I will see you in the next video.